Katana by S.L. Walker. You, Hondo said, in a tone much closer to admiration than censure, are the galaxy's tiniest terror. He gestured in illustration, holding his hand at the correct approximate height, crouching with his coat pooling around him. Maul just bared his teeth, pressed back against the wall as far from them as he could get. He had done a truly spectacular job giving them the runaround, until he was finally cornered in a cargo hold, still clutching a bundle of wires that he had torn out of a door circuit. "I say we let the little biter go," Sean muttered, probably still cradling the hand that had met with the Zabrak boy's surprisingly sharp canines. No one expected the boy to actually be able to bite hard enough to make it through tough weak-ray skin, but there you had it. See how long he lasts on his own. "We will do no such thing." Hondo raised his hand and waved dismissively. "Go, while you still have some dignity left." Sean did go, though not without some more undertone mumbling. No matter. Hondo had not intended to end up with 2 children aboard, but he couldn't bring himself to abandon them. Gindy, the Nautolan girl, had lost the only family and home she had. Maul, well, he really was a tiny little terror, but Hondo had no intentions of letting the boy disappear back into whatever world required him to call someone master. "All right, I see that we have reached an impasse," Hondo said reasonably. "I can't let you take any of my ships, though. I need those to make a living. Rakwadana. Is there something else you might want? I'm always open to negotiations." Given the answer, continued bared teeth, it was becoming quite clear to Hondo that he might have gotten himself in over his head. Negotiating with huts? Easy. This, though? Ah, well. He stood and opened the door and sent for Gindy. If anyone could get Maul out of there in some non-hostile manner, Hondo already knew it was her. 12 escape attempts later, 2 of which were surprisingly explosive, but thankfully not lethal to anything but a bulkhead or 2, Hondo was not quite at wit's end, but he was not so far from it that he couldn't measure the distance. He had to rely on his crew to do the raiding of late, because he was otherwise occupied with his charges. Gindy was quiet, heartsore, and sad. She blamed Hondo at first for what happened to the academy, but after he allowed her to view the footage and explained his original intentions, she had instead turned inward. The turning point with her had been after yet another night chasing Maul around the ship until the boy was finally worn out, then letting Gindy half-coax, half-drag him back to the room they currently shared. "I have seen runaway slaves less tenacious," Hondo said the next day. "I have been a runaway slave less tenacious." Gindy blinked her large black eyes up at him. "You were a slave?" "Long ago," Hondo had said, shrugging expansively. She looked down again, there. "Me too. Not so long ago." "Ah." He looked over at her for a long moment, and felt the distance between him and his wit's end lengthen considerably. Usually, the only time Maul ever spoke to Hondo, or anyone but Gindy, was to issue a threat. Once or twice, when he was recaptured from yet another escape attempt, he would snarl something that sounded desperate about waiting for some sort of test to end. Otherwise, though, he remained a bristly little menace, with sharp teeth, surprising agility, and quick fists. The first crack in his hostility was when Hondo managed to find out just what subspecies of Zabrak the boy was, because he most clearly was not of Iridonian extraction, and learned what he could of the Night Brothers of Dathomir. Hybrids. Born slaves. "You might have brothers," he explained, once he had given Maul the very intentionally not powerful or networked to anything datapad with the information on it. "Dathomir is unfriendly to visitors, but perhaps when you're older, you might find them." The look he got back was wide-eyed surprise, and, of course, wariness, but it was at least one recognizable as belonging to a child. It was the kit, though, that was the big turning point, a few weeks later. "What is it?" the boy asked suspiciously, as the little Phoenix kit toddled over to him and rubbed against his leg. Hondo was sitting cross-legged in front of the door, having nudged the little black and tan creature into heading that direction. A Felix kit. Alas, the only survivor of her litter. The captain apparently killed the mother and the rest, jettisoning his cargo in an attempt to deprive us. Hondo shrugged. He failed, of course, but his pets unfortunately paid the price. Why is she making that noise? Maul demanded, staring at the Felix intently as she made to crawl onto him, tiny claws catching in his clothes. It means she likes you. Why? Hondo shrugged again. Why not? That just seemed to confuse Maul, but after a moment, he tentatively touched the Felix's back, and then whipped his hand away when the Felix tried to rub against it. But then after a moment longer, hopefully realizing that the small cat meant no harm, he tried again, and this time he blinked and let her run under his hand, tail sliding between his fingers. Oh. Hondo hid his grin when he slipped back out of the room, leaving the boy to figure out that the kit was his newest friend. Feeling sentimental, boss? One of his men asked, when he retold the story later over drinks, bemused by the amount of effort Hondo was going to for two children that he had once intended to ransom. What is life? Hondo answered philosophically, but a series of sentimental moments. Hondo acquired toys for the Felix. Maul guarded his new pet quite zealously from everyone but Gindy, who made sure she wrapped her head tresses up so they would not become toys in their own right until the kit could be trained out of seeing them as such. Anytime Hondo came around, Maul tried to hide the kit wherever she wouldn't be seen, though only to partial success. He thinks you're going to take her and kill her, Gindy explained, which managed to make Hondo feel vaguely ill. No small feat, given his life. Does she have a name? He asked, resolving to steal one of those ridiculous climbing contraptions that people often bought for any number of cat species next. Gindy grinned, a much lighter look than she had worn when she first came aboard. Katana. Katana? A type of sword. Oh, Hondo said, then grinned. The escape attempts came to an end, albeit slowly, but not before Maul tried to escape with his Felix. It was also much easier to coax him to go back to his room than it used to be. Hondo actually paid for the fake tree with 3 platforms, a hammock, and a dangling stuffed Rotus, and started making plans for some type of onboard body of water when Gindy was kind enough to put it together for him. The first time Hondo realized that the boy was force-sensitive, he knew the Night Brothers supposedly naturally were, but Maul had never overtly displayed as such, was when he was flung across the room by what felt like a blast wave, absent the heat. It was the keening that had brought him running. The not as tiny terror, who had left teeth marks on several of Hondo's crew, who had wrecked many doors, a few bulkheads, and even almost managed to steal a shuttle a few times, was clinging to his now-grown Felix, who was distressed by this, but wasn't clawing over it. What a good pet. And sobbing so hard, he was barely able to catch a breath. It took Gindy a good 20 minutes to calm Maul down enough that Hondo wasn't going to be thrown around like a cheap sack of wool flour. And when he finally could approach, it was to a devastated litany of, "He'll kill her, he'll kill her." But somehow this time, Hondo knew that he wasn't the subject. "Ah, Rakodana," Hondo said, and both the children looked up at him, huddled with a Felix with tear-wet fur. "You would have to come through me first." Anyway, I cannot get enough of this alternate universe. I just can't. Oh my goodness. When I first read this, I have not watched all of the Clone Wars episodes. My younger siblings love them. The show can get a little bit too heavy for me, but I absolutely adore Hondo. He is so dramatic. He is such a diva. He is hilarious. He's one of my favorite kinds of characters. And there was one episode that I remember watching where I was really rooting for him to actually adopt, like, some of the, like, Jedi kids, I think it was, that he had, like, kidnapped and held for ransom, and then, like, Ahsoka, like, went and rescued them. Spoiler alert, by the way. Sorry about that. But, like, he had such, like, dad energy in that episode. I could not deny it. I saw so much potential, and it had never even occurred to me to, like, write fanfic of it. And then I stumbled across this fanfic, and I don't really read Star Wars fanfics all that often. Probably just because of, I don't know. I don't usually. And then I stumbled across this one, and I was like, oh, so much to love. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Definitely make sure to follow the link in the description to find the original author, the original fic. Leave some love on that. If you also enjoyed, just let them know that we appreciate their work, and more Dad Hondo. Love a good Dad Hondo. This is amazing. Absolutely adore it. I hope you guys enjoyed coming along. See you later, sightseers. Bye-bye.